Hey, Ange here, and I would like to go through some really basic beginner variations of tackling the squat, because I know we share a lot of the amazing things you can do and movements that you can do from this position, but I do understand that even just getting into this position for a lot of people can be a challenge in itself, and I don't want to scare people away from this. From building up the squat, because it's such a useful position for your ankle mobility and stability, for your knees, because they get to really be in this amount of flexion, for your hips and lower back as well. It can be a really useful really useful position to be in. So if you don't have a comfortable squat, I'm going to go through some of the reasons why. Go through some stretches that you can start to do to help open things up in your body, and then also the best way to change your position so that the squat becomes comfortable. Because even though the stretches are great that you can move through, you have to spend time in the squat. It's not I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times a week kind of thing. If you want to see improvement, you have to be accessing this position every day and kind of be breathing and teaching the body that this is a normal position to be in. All right, cool. So firstly, one of the things that a lot of people find challenging, even if they have a full squat, is accessing this pelvic tilt. So you can see that if I'm here, a lot of people get stuck with their center of gravity and they have to round their lower back. What we want you to be able to do is access a little bit more of a tilt, and that gets, the more time you spend here, the more comfortable this position becomes. So if we just bring our feet onto the ground, our hands behind, and we work on this tilt, you can see that if I round my back this way, then I'm in a tilt coming back here. And then as I move into my anterior tilt, this might feel different for different people, but you might feel a little bit of tightness on one side or the other. So this is firstly just to kind of get that concept. This is a good little way to see what kind of access you have to a tilt. So bending the knees, hands and feet on the ground, rolling the pelvis into your anterior tilt, seeing how much room you've got, and then into your posterior tilt. And you can do this 10 times just to see what you've got there, gently moving forward and back. All right, so once you've done that, another way you can work on this position is being in somewhat of a child's pose. Just going to move this out of the way. But keeping this tilt. So if I round my back, if I go into my full, so we're going to tuck the toes, so we're imagining we're in a squat here, and I bring the hips back. So the hips, in a squat, your knees come into this really flexed position, and my hips go back. Now, at some point, if I go too far, my lower back's going to round. But if I don't go so far, and I can see if I can keep this anterior tilt, this drop in the lower back, and I come back to a point where, yep, all right, there I can feel that if I go any further, my lower back's going to round and I'm going to lose this anterior tilt. And then when you find it, you just hang and you breathe, and you're getting a good little toe and foot stretch. We're keeping the tilt in the spine, coming down as far as you can before you lose that pelvic position. And you would just breathe about 5 breaths here. So getting familiar with this concept of coming into flexion of the hip and knees, and even getting the ankles into position, but still maintaining the pelvic position, is a really good way to start developing some awareness of what your body is doing in the squat. That's not the only restriction that people have trouble with accessing a deep squat. Some of these next stretches will help you kind of open up different areas of the body that you might feel are restricted. So the first one is the calves. If we wear heels, or even if our normal shoes have a slight heel lift, or we don't really stretch through the back of our legs, our calves can be quite tight. So what I like to do is firstly come into this little calf stretch here, bringing one foot underneath your knee here, and just leaning forward, getting a bit of an Achilles stretch. Leaning forward, putting some pressure through the ankle, mobilizing the ankle here by leaning forward. So you could do, say, 10 of these forward and back, and then hold for 10 seconds at the end. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Bend one knee and foot forward, foot underneath your knee, and we're just leaning forward and back, getting some lengthening through the Achilles, mobilizing the ankle. Just make sure the toes are spread there. 8, 9, let's hold number 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so then to stretch the calves as well as a nice down dog, you can tuck the toes, lift the hips. So from here, you can keep the feet about hip width apart. You might find it easier to access a stretch by bending one knee, straightening one leg, and just moving through a calf stretch as you lower the heel towards the ground. Again, you can do, say, 10 of these, walking the heels, moving through your ankles. And on number 10, you might want to lift both heels and lower both heels and just hold and breathe. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then lower the knees down to the ground. All right, so then the hips are next. We go for a lunge to open up through your hip flexors. So what I like to do here is line myself up with the front thigh, square off my chest to the front leg here, and then bring the hand either side of the foot there. So just make sure, the main point is make sure the foot is not reaching back through here. Bring it forward if it needs to, square yourself off, and then again we'll do 5 to 10 breaths. And you should feel a nice opening through your hip flexor here. Again, just trying to relax the nervous system when we're stretching by slowing down your breath. All right, the next one that we'll do is, we'll go the other side first. So sweep that leg around, bring one leg forward. Again, squaring off through your hips, through that front thigh, hands either side of that front leg, chest lifts. So again, making sure you're not rounding through the back, we're working on that tilt, so flat back, long line, a few deep breaths here. And these stretches are really simple. They're easy enough for you to move through on a daily basis if you really want to start opening up through your squat. Just a couple more deep breaths. All right, awesome. All right, these last two, we're going to come down onto your back. So take your time getting there. So this first one we're going to do is a glute stretch. So you're just going to cross one foot to the opposite knee, interlace the hands behind the thigh. Now with this one, it's the same thing with the tilt. So you don't want to pull yourself up so high that then your tailbone comes off. Imagine that squat, your tailbone is lengthening down. There might be a little gap underneath your lower back, and then your tailbone stays down while we pull the thigh towards you, relaxing the neck and shoulders. Keeping this knee gently out. And again, just a few deep breaths. And it's a really nice way when you're moving through these stretches, different parts of the body, gives you intel into which parts might be restricting you in your squat. But most of the time, it's just the fact that If we don't do it, we lose it. Which is why I really want to reintroduce this kind of basic position into your everyday life. So it's about finding different opportunities to squat where you normally might sit on a chair or a couch. With people working from home, you might want to find a little setup by squatting and then setting up onto a coffee table is a good one. All right, and then this last one is a little bit more of like inner thigh around the groin. It's called a happy baby. What we do is you can either hold on to the outside of the ankles or the outside of the foot there if that's accessible. Again, really trying to keep the tailbone down, a little gap underneath the lower back, relaxing the neck and shoulders. You can flex the feet a little bit here and breathe deep again. A few deep breaths. Again, if it's too much, you just hold on to your ankles there or find something that's comfortable for you and you just build it up over time. All right, cool. So they're the main stretches that I recommend in terms of trying to open up some of the tissues in the body to access your squat. But if, as I said, the most important thing is actually practicing the squat. And I know that sometimes being in this position is not the most comfortable. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to make this position a little bit more accessible. The first way, if you found that you had tight calves, is to lift them up. So I've got my yoga mat here, rolled up. And then what I would do is bring my heels down onto the mat and my feet onto the floor. So I'm just allowing a little bit of a shorter calf here. And then I would do the same thing, sink the hips down. Again, if it's still not enough, I can put then a towel. So you can build this up as much as you like until you feel comfortable that you can sit into your squat and spend some time here. What you want to do is really build up the minutes. So when we do the squat challenge, we aim for 30 minutes in a day, but it's spread out, finding little bits and pieces to do during the day to just rest, whether this is reading a book, writing something down, could be just chilling out, it might be eating, finding things to do so that your nervous system really adapts to this position here. So this is one way. So try out bringing something underneath your heels, see if this becomes more comfortable, and slowly you start to decrease the amount that you put underneath your heels. The second one, I'm going to go to my kitchen because I want to show you another way to come out of to find a position in the squat. So coming over. So you can hang on to anything here. I like to use the kitchen sink because I think it's a nice steady thing that feels where you can actually relax. So what I would do is hold on, feet same distance apart as before, sinking the hips. Now, because I'm holding on, I don't have to get stuck into this rounded position. I can really lift my chest, pulling against the kitchen and find this position here. And I would just breathe. Again, you don't have to stay like stuck in your squat still. You can move around, opening one side or the other. You can maybe let one hand go and go for a twist, or the other hand. Just finding something that's comfortable for you. So yeah, that's really it. So it's about accumulating time in your squat. And building it up. It's about making it a resting position. So getting your nervous system adapting to making this okay, I don't have to freak out when I'm in this position. Use those stretches I went through as something you can do really regularly to help open up the tissues of the legs and the hips. And yeah, let me know how you go.